Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the Daily Fix. I am your usual host and presenter, Advocate Tulo Hoyane. The prosecution case is in intensive care. The prosecution case is just falling apart like a stack of cards as Gwabeni continues to testify in the Pretoria High Court. And Baloyi is desperate man. That's a desperate man. That's a desperate prosecutor who's trying to put his things together, but they will not just come together. So as Gwabeni started to give his evidence, remember those 50 lies in 50 minutes that I talked about in an earlier episode of the Daily Fix? Baloyi then rose up by way of an objection. And it was a futile exercise. And at best, it was a futile exercise. At worst, it was a misunderstanding of the law. Because Baloyi just simply dialed the wrong number. He has no understanding at all what Section 204 of the Criminal Procedure Act is all about. He does not know a thing about it. His objection was around the fact that no, this witness must be warned. Gwabeni must be warned against self-incrimination. Nonsense. What is that to warn Gwabeni about? That's nonsensical. And he was saying that in this, he needs to be warned in terms of Section 204 so that he does not make statements that might incriminate him. That section is not applicable here at all. Baloyi must go back to school. That section applies to a prosecution witness. If an individual is involved in the commission of a crime and then gets into an arrangement with the prosecution to be a state witness, an accomplice witness, somebody who actually took part in the commission of the crime charged, then that witness will be declared an accomplice witness and a state witness, of course. As an accomplice witness, before he testifies, he will then be warned by the court that because he was a participant in the crime that is being charged, he will get the warning that against self-incrimination, because it is expected of him, right, to come up with the evidence truthfully as far as he knows, because he's now an accomplice witness, he's now a state witness, and he will then be warned against self-incrimination. So that applies to prosecution witnesses who were formerly accused persons. So it does not apply here. So how can you, by any stretch of imagination, say that Gwabeni might self-incriminate here? There's no possibility of Gwabeni self-incriminating here. Gwabeni is just simply coming forward because he has been called by the defense after the failure of the prosecution to call him, or the unwillingness of the prosecution to call him. Because ideally, one would have expected that the prosecution would have called him to come and support, or back up the evidence tendered by Zoom. They did not call him. And it is obvious now why they did not call him. Just like Absalom Zungu was not called. It is now becoming clear why Gwabeni was not called. Because Gwabeni is rubbishing all that Zungu said before the court regarding these accused persons and what happened at the Basotho hostel on the 26th of October 2025. Now Baloyi is seeking to somehow also intimidate this witness. But in an uncharacteristic manner, Judge Ratha just turned his back on Baloyi and overruled him over this. He told him to his face that no. That section is not applicable here. 204 is not applicable here. And Munisi was then given the opportunity to roll on. But that just shows you the desperation of the prosecution. Because Judge Advocate Baloyi somehow was saying that there is something, he was trying to send some kind of veil thread to Gwabeni, that he must be careful not to incriminate himself or say things that might incriminate him. So that perhaps as he testifies, Gwabeni now must hold back, fearful of any self-incrimination on his part. Now, that section does not apply here. That is for prosecution witnesses, former accused persons who have turned state witnesses. Because, for them to testify satisfactorily before the court as accomplice witnesses that initially participated in the commission of the crime, they are warned to, to testify truthfully, right? Even if that testimony relates to self-incrimination. And only when the court is satisfied that they have truthfully, testified to the court's satisfaction, that they can then be released and will not face any further prosecution. That is how it is. So Baloyi's objection was neither here nor there. Neither here nor there. It can only have been calculated to intimidate Gwabeni. But the train rolls on. The train rolls on, and in yet another edition of the Daily Fix, in about 2 to 3 hours' time, I'll be bringing you yet another update, because this is a day like no other. This is a day in which, the final nail in the prosecution case is being drilled in. There is no running, there is nowhere to hide for Judge Baloyi. Look forward to that final edition today, and in the meantime, enjoy your day.